My girlfriend pretended to be pregnant. Then the hospital called me. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. It was a Tuesday afternoon when my phone lit up with a number I didn't recognize. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something in my gut told me to answer. "Is this Daniel Carter?" The voice asked, calm but clinical. "Yes. This is St. Mary's Hospital. You're listed as the emergency contact for Emily Parker. She's here for routine tests, and, well, there's been a discrepancy in her medical file we thought you should know about." My stomach tightened. What kind of discrepancy? The nurse hesitated. "There's no record of a pregnancy. Not here, not in any affiliated facility. And according to her blood work, she's not pregnant now, nor has she been recently." The words hit me like a brick to the chest. I actually laughed, awkward, disbelieving. "That's impossible. She's 6 months along." A silence stretched before the nurse spoke again, voice softer. "I'm sorry, sir. Whatever she told you, it's not supported by her medical history." I hung up without saying goodbye, my hands shaking so hard I nearly dropped the phone. I sat in my parked car, staring at nothing, replaying the last 6 months in my mind. The day she told me, the tearful, "I'm late," the store-bought test with the 2 pink lines, the way she clutched my hands and said we'd name the baby after my grandmother. The ultrasound appointment she insisted I skip because she wanted to surprise me. The grainy photo she texted me afterward, one I never got to hold because she said it was too precious to risk losing. My heart was pounding so loud it drowned out everything else. Could this be a mistake? Some bizarre mix-up? Or had I been living in a fantasy she built from scratch? I started the car, my chest burning, and drove home with one thought hammering in my skull. I needed to hear her explain this, now. When I opened the apartment door, Emily was in the kitchen, humming, stirring something on the stove. She turned, smiling like nothing in the world was wrong. "Hey, babe," she said, patting her belly. "Your son's kicking again." I stared at her, every muscle in my body screaming to ask, but my phone buzzed in my pocket. It was the hospital again. And this time, they said something that made my blood run cold. I stepped back into the hallway, my pulse pounding in my ears, and answered. "Mr. Carter." The same nurse's voice came through, but her tone was sharper now, urgent. "I need to clarify something. The reason we called again is Ms. Parker insisted she's been receiving prenatal care here under Dr. Lambert. We have no Dr. Lambert on staff. In fact, we can't find anyone by that name in the state registry." I gripped the phone so hard my knuckles ached. "So what are you saying?" "She's been seeing no one." "I'm saying," the nurse replied carefully, "we believe the documents she submitted are fabricated. If she's shown you any medical reports, you should verify them independently." She paused, as if weighing her words. "And, Mr. Carter, this isn't the first time we've had to make a call like this about her." My chest tightened until I could barely breathe. Not the first time. I wanted to ask more, but the nurse said she couldn't share additional details without Emily's consent and ended the call. When I walked back into the kitchen, Emily was plating dinner, humming again like she was in some kind of Hallmark movie. I could still feel the hospital's words crawling under my skin. I sat down at the table. "Emily, when's your next appointment?" She blinked, then smiled, too quickly. "Next Thursday." "Why? Which hospital?" Her smile faltered just a hair. "You know, the same one as always." I leaned forward, my voice low. "Funny, I just spoke to them. They say they've never heard of you. Or Dr. Lambert." Her spoon clattered to the floor. She bent to pick it up, but I caught the flicker in her eyes, something between panic and calculation. When she stood, her voice was sharp. "Why are you calling my hospital? Do you not trust me?" My jaw tightened. "I think you need to tell me the truth." She stared at me for a long, loaded moment. Then, with a strange, cold smile, she said, "If you want the truth, you'd better be ready for it." And before I could respond, there was a knock at the door. The knock was sharp, impatient, 3 quick raps that made both of us freeze. Emily's eyes darted to the door, then to me, like she was calculating whether to bolt or stay put. I stood, heart pounding. "Expecting someone?" She shook her head too quickly. "No, don't answer it." That only made me walk faster. I swung the door open, and standing there was a woman I'd never seen before, mid-30s, hair pulled into a messy bun, wearing scrubs with a faded hospital logo. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. "Are you Daniel Carter?" she asked, scanning my face like she needed confirmation. Yes? Her gaze slid past me to Emily, and something ugly flashed across her expression. Then you need to hear this. I work at Riverside Women's Clinic. Emily came in there 3 months ago asking for, let's call it documentation. Only thing is, she didn't want an exam. She wanted paperwork that made it look like she was pregnant. She offered me cash. My stomach dropped. What? The woman stepped closer, her voice low and tense. I refused. But she found someone else in the back who took the money. And I thought you should know. This isn't her first time pulling something like this. Behind me, Emily's voice snapped like a whip. Get out of here. You don't know what you're talking about. The woman didn't flinch. You can deny it all you want, Emily, but I have messages, screenshots. And Daniel, if you've given her money for anything baby-related, cribs, strollers, registries, you might want to check where that money went. A sick, crawling heat crept up my spine. Why are you telling me this now? The woman's eyes softened, just for a moment. Because the last guy didn't find out until it was too late. And he's still paying for it. Emily's voice cut in, shaking but loud. She's lying. She's obsessed with ruining me. I looked between them, my hands trembling. The woman in the doorway. The girlfriend I thought I knew. My mind screaming at me to choose who to believe. Then the woman reached into her bag and pulled out something that made my blood run cold. The woman's hand emerged holding a worn manila envelope. She glanced over her shoulder, as if checking the hallway, then shoved it into my hands. Open it, she said. Emily stepped forward, eyes wide. Daniel, don't. It's nothing. Just trash she's making up to hurt me. I tore the envelope open anyway. Inside were a handful of printed screenshots, text messages, receipts, even what looked like a fake ultrasound image. My hands shook as I flipped through them. The first screenshot was a text thread from Emily to an unknown number. How much for a 12-week skin pic? Need it by Friday. The reply, $2.50. Send via PayPal. Another photo showed a PayPal receipt. The payment note read, baby ultrasound photo. I looked at the ultrasound image itself, something I'd once thought was the most precious thing in my life. Now, under the harsh kitchen light, I saw the faint watermark in the corner, Stock Medical Images LLC. My stomach churned. This is insane, Emily said, her voice sharp and brittle. Daniel, I can explain. This is a misunderstanding. The woman in scrubs didn't look away from me. Check the last page. It was a registry printout, crib, stroller, car seat, clothes, all shipped to AP. Oh, box I'd never seen before. The purchaser name? My own. Emily's voice cracked. I only did this because I didn't want to lose you. I stared at her, the words from the hospital, the knock at the door, the envelope all crashing together into one horrifying picture. Lose me, I said, my voice low. You've been lying to me every single day for 6 months. Her face hardened, tears disappearing in an instant. You think you're so innocent? You don't even know what I've done for us. The woman in scrubs put a hand on my arm. There's more, a lot more. But if you want the whole truth, you'll need to come with me. Tonight. Emily stepped between us, her voice like ice. If you walk out that door, Daniel, you'll regret it. The apartment felt like it had shrunk, the air heavy and electric. Emily stood close enough for me to smell the faint trace of her perfume, once comforting, now almost nauseating. Behind her, the woman in scrubs waited, her eyes steady, like she'd seen this scene play out before. Daniel, Emily said softly, tilting her head just so, the way she used to when she wanted to pull me back from an argument. We can talk about this. Alone. We don't need outsiders stirring things up. Her tone was sugar, but her eyes were knives. The woman cut in. If you stay, she'll spin another story, and you'll go in circles until you're too drained to fight. If you leave now, I can show you records, police reports, even. Police reports. The words made my pulse slam in my ears. I looked at Emily. Her lips were trembling, but her hands were curled into tight fists. You walk out with her, she said, voice low, and you're choosing her lies over me. Think about what that means. I thought about it. I thought about the baby names we'd picked, the nursery I'd started painting, the savings account I'd been draining for hospital bills. I thought about that phone call from the hospital, the watermark on the ultrasound, the P.O. box I'd never heard of. My chest tightened, and for a moment I actually felt dizzy. Finally, I said, If there's nothing to hide, then you've got nothing to be afraid of. Emily's eyes went flat. She stepped aside, but not before leaning close enough for only me to hear. If you do this, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. I didn't answer. I just grabbed my jacket and followed the woman into the hallway. We walked in silence until we reached the elevator. Only when the doors closed did she speak. Good. You made the right call. But you need to know what I'm about to show you. It's worse than you think. The elevator dinged, the doors opened, and standing in the lobby was a man holding a thick file folder with my name on it. The man was tall, mid-40s, with the kind of posture that said he'd spent years in law enforcement, or maybe still did. His eyes flicked between me and the woman in scrubs. Then he held out the folder. Daniel Carter? I hesitated, glancing at her. She gave me a small nod. Yes, I said, taking the folder. It was heavier than I expected. I'm Detective Harris, he said. You've been on my radar for a while. Not because of anything you've done, his gaze sharpened, but because of her. My grip tightened on the folder. Emily, he nodded. She's been running the same play for years. Different cities, different men. Pretend pregnancy, collect money for medical expenses and gifts, disappear before the due date. We've got at least 4 other victims who came forward. My throat went dry. 4. Harris tapped the folder. Inside you'll find statements, financial records, and in some cases, restraining orders. One guy lost nearly 40 grand. Another had his credit destroyed when she opened lines in his name. I opened the folder and saw the proof. Names, dates, grainy photos of Emily with different men, each one smiling, hand on her belly, and each photo stamped with a different year. She's smart, Harris continued. Always leaves just enough evidence to convince her target she's legitimate. Fake scans, phony appointment slips. But there's one mistake she keeps making. She reuses the same stock ultrasound images. That's how we link her cases. I stared at a page in the file, my own ultrasound side by side with one from 2018. Identical. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. Because we think she's planning to vanish soon, Harris said. And if she does, she'll take whatever's left in your accounts with her. My stomach churned. So what do we do? Harris's expression darkened. We set a trap. But to catch her in the act, you'll have to play along. Make her think you believe every word. The elevator behind us dinged again. We turned, and Emily stepped out, her smile too bright, her eyes locked on me. Emily walked toward us, each step slow, deliberate. The fluorescent lights of the lobby made her skin look pale, almost translucent, but her smile never wavered. Well, she said, eyeing Detective Harris like he was a cockroach on her kitchen counter. This is quite the little meeting. Care to tell me what's going on, Daniel? I swallowed hard, forcing my voice to stay steady. We were just talking about the baby. Her gaze sharpened, flicking to the folder in my hands. And what's that? I tucked it under my arm casually, heart hammering. Something for work. The woman in scrubs, Mara, she'd told me her name in the elevator, shifted closer, her presence a silent shield. Harris gave me a tiny nod, the kind of signal that said keep her calm. Emily tilted her head, all faux sweetness. You could have just asked me if you had questions. Instead, you sneak around with strangers? That's not very fatherly of you. I forced a smile. You're right. I'm sorry. I just wanted to make sure everything's ready for next week's appointment. Her expression softened a fraction. Exactly. You should trust me. She reached out, resting a hand on my chest, but her eyes darted to Harris again, calculating. Harris broke the silence. Miss Parker, I'm actually here on behalf of a charity that supports expectant mothers. Daniel mentioned your situation, and we'd like to help. Financially. Emily blinked, then smiled wider. Really? That's generous. Of course, Harris said smoothly. But to process the assistance, we'll need your latest medical records and an appointment confirmation from your OB. Should only take a day or 2. A flicker, barely there, crossed her face. Her hand slipped from my chest. Oh well, I don't have those on me. That's fine, Harris replied. We can meet tomorrow. Daniel can bring you. In the meantime, the charity will prepare the check. Her eyes lit up at the word check. She glanced at me, her smile back in place. Sure, tomorrow works. But as she walked past us toward the exit, Mara leaned in and whispered, she's not coming tomorrow. If she's smart, she's already planning her escape tonight. Harris's jaw tightened. Then we don't wait until tomorrow. I looked between them, my pulse pounding. What do you mean? Mara met my eyes. It's simple. Daniel, we need to follow her. Right now. We stepped out into the cool night air just in time to see Emily's silhouette heading down the block. She didn't look back, but her pace was quick, almost too quick for someone just going home. Stay far enough behind, Harris murmured. If she spots us, she'll change course. Mara and I followed him, our footsteps blending into the hum of the city. Emily turned right at the corner, slipping into a side street lined with shuttered shops and flickering streetlights. She paused at a pawn shop's window, pretending to look in, but I could see her reflection in the glass, her eyes scanning the shadows behind her. She's checking for a tail, Mara whispered. We slowed, pretending to argue over directions, until Emily moved again. This time, she crossed into an alley and disappeared through a metal door with peeling blue paint. Harris motioned for us to follow, but quietly. We crept closer and stopped by a cracked window. Inside, the place was a mess: boxes, dusty furniture, and a table stacked with envelopes. Emily was crouched over it, stuffing bundles of cash into a gym bag. My stomach lurched. That's your money, Mara said under her breath. Registry funds, fake hospital donations, all of it. Then I saw something that made my blood run cold. A stack of driver's licenses, each with a different name but the same face. Emily's face. She zipped the bag shut and pulled out her phone. Harris gestured for silence as we strained to hear. Yes, tonight, she said into the phone. The ticket's already booked. Once I'm on the flight, he won't be able to touch a thing. Mara's eyes widened. She's leaving the country. I felt something snap inside me. Months of lies, of playing the fool, all boiling over. We stop her now, I hissed. Harris shook his head. We need her caught with the evidence. If we go in too soon, she'll just walk. Inside, Emily slung the bag over her shoulder and headed toward the door. Harris pulled out his phone and dialed. This is Detective Harris, he said quietly. She's moving. Send the team. Sirens wailed in the distance. Emily froze, her head snapping toward the sound, then bolted for the back exit. Move. Harris barked. We ran after her, the gym bag bouncing against her side as she vanished into the darkness. Emily's footsteps slapped against the wet pavement, echoing off the narrow brick walls. She didn't look back, but I could see the gym bag swinging wildly as she ran. Harris took the lead, his stride longer, his voice sharp as he barked into his radio. Eastbound through Braxton Alley, suspect carrying evidence. Cut her off at 9th. Mara and I trailed close behind, my lungs burning with every breath. The smell of damp garbage and oil clung to the air. Emily darted left, vaulting over a low chain-link fence with a grace I didn't expect. She's done this before, Mara muttered, pushing me toward a gap in the fence. We scrambled through and nearly slipped on the slick asphalt. Up ahead, Emily yanked open a metal service door and disappeared inside. Harris slammed his hand against the wall. She's trying to lose us in the maintenance tunnels. We burst through the door and were swallowed by darkness, the only light a thin glow from Harris's flashlight. The sound of Emily's shoes clanged against the metal grates beneath us, fading, then growing again as she doubled back through the maze. I caught a glimpse of her at the end of a corridor, her face twisted in something between fear and fury. Daniel, she called, her voice bouncing off the walls. You don't know what you're doing. Walk away and I'll forget any of this happened. I ignored her, my focus narrowing to the gym bag in her grip. That was the truth, everything she'd stolen, every lie in one place. Suddenly, red and blue lights spilled through a grate above. The tunnel vibrated with the muffled roar of engines and shouted commands. Emily's head snapped toward the sound. We hit the stairs just as Emily shoved open the door to the street. A patrol car screeched to a stop in front of her, blocking the way. For a split second, I thought it was over. Then she did something I never expected. She flung the gym bag into a passing delivery truck and ran in the opposite direction. The thud of the gym bag hitting the truck's open cargo bed echoed like a gunshot in my head. The delivery driver didn't even notice. He was already accelerating, the taillights vanishing into the night. Damn it, Harris barked, skidding to a stop at the top of the stairs. We can't lose that bag. Emily was already halfway down the block in the opposite direction, weaving through parked cars, her dark coat melting into the shadows. Mara's voice was sharp. Daniel, you know what's in that bag. It's the case. Without it, she walks. But my eyes locked on Emily's silhouette. This was my chance to end it, to look her in the eye and demand every answer she'd been hiding. My fists clenched, the urge to chase her almost overwhelming. Harris grabbed my arm. You go after her, you'll lose both. We split. Mara, you're with me on the bag. Daniel, you stall her if you can, but don't let her take you anywhere alone. Before I could respond, they were already sprinting toward the street where the truck had disappeared, Harris shouting into his radio for an intercept. I turned and ran after Emily. She cut into another alley, her pace slowing just enough for me to gain on her. Emily, I shouted. My voice echoed, bouncing off the graffiti-stained brick. It's over. She stopped abruptly, spinning to face me. Her chest was heaving, but her eyes were calm, too calm. You think you've won? She said, her tone icy. You think a few scraps of paper and some fake sympathy from strangers can undo what I've built? I stepped closer, my pulse thundering. It's done. The lies, the scams. Harris has everything he needs. Her lips curved into a strange, almost pitying smile. Daniel, Harris doesn't know half of it. And if you push me, I'll make sure you take the fall for the rest. The words hit me like a punch. What the hell are you talking about? She reached into her coat pocket, pulling out a phone I'd never seen before. Proof, she said softly, that you were part of this from the start. Emily held the phone like it was a loaded weapon, her thumb hovering over the screen. The cold smirk on her face made my stomach knot. What do you mean I was part of this? I demanded, my voice harsher than I intended. She tilted her head, feigning sympathy. Oh, Daniel, do you think I didn't plan for this day? Every gift you bought, every payment you sent me for appointments, I made sure it looked like you were the mastermind. Fraud, extortion, conspiracy, pick one. To anyone who sees the right texts, you're my partner in crime. My heart slammed against my ribs. That's insane. No one would believe. Oh, they will. She tapped the screen and held it up. My own messages filled the display, pulled from months of conversations, except the words were twisted, out of context, edited. My promises of anything you need attached to invoices for fake clinics. My can't wait to see the baby linked to PayPal transfers. These are doctored, I snapped. Maybe they are, she said with a shrug. But the court of public opinion doesn't care. Neither will the cops if I tell them I was coerced, that you threatened me if I didn't keep up the act. Rage and panic fought for space in my chest. Why are you telling me this now? Her smirk widened. Because you still have a choice. Forget the bag. Tell your little detective friend you made a mistake. Let me walk away tonight, and this phone disappears forever. The distant wail of sirens grew louder. She glanced toward the sound, then back at me, eyes hard. Decide, Daniel. Save yourself, or watch your whole life burn down. Before I could answer, a shadow moved at the alley's mouth. Mara, her finger pressed to her lips, holding a small recording device. She'd heard everything, but Emily didn't see her. She was still watching me, waiting for my decision. I forced myself to meet Emily's gaze, masking the flicker of relief I felt at seeing Mara in the shadows. So that's it, I said, keeping my voice steady. Blackmail me into letting you vanish. Her smirk didn't falter. Blackmail is such an ugly word. Let's call it mutual self-preservation. I took a slow step forward, careful not to spook her. You've thought of everything, haven't you? Even how to frame me if things went south. Emily tilted her head, studying me. It's what survivors do, Daniel. You think you're my first? You think you're special? You were just the easiest. Her words hit like glass under my skin, but I stayed calm. So, if I agree, what's your plan? Hop a plane with the bag and live it up until you run out of marks? She smirked, clearly enjoying her own monologue. Not exactly. I've got investments, Daniel. Places you can't trace. By the time Harris figures out which name I'm using, I'll be gone again. Mara inched closer, staying behind Emily's line of sight. The tiny red light on her recorder blinked like a heartbeat. I feigned hesitation, glancing at the phone in Emily's hand. And you're sure no one can get into that? No backups anywhere? Emily laughed softly. Please. I'm not stupid. It's all encrypted, and it stays that way unless I decide otherwise. Which means you keep your mouth shut, and I disappear. Clean break for both of us. I could see Mara now, just a few feet behind her, angling the recorder to catch every word. I needed her to say something even more damning. I lowered my voice. Just tell me one thing. Was I ever actually going to be a father? Her smile vanished, replaced by something colder. Not for a second. The words hung in the air like a knife. I held her gaze, my chest tight, while Mara's finger pressed a button on the recorder, locking the file. Then the sound of boots pounding pavement filled the alley, and Emily finally turned. Just as Harris appeared with two uniformed officers. Emily's eyes went wide the moment she saw Harris. The phone in her hand vanished into her pocket in one fluid motion, and she bolted before anyone could speak. Stop her! Harris barked, charging forward. The two officers gave chase, their footsteps pounding against the asphalt. Mara slipped past me, tossing me the recorder. Don't lose this. It's the nail in her coffin. I clutched it like it was made of gold and sprinted after them. Emily darted out of the alley and into the chaos of the main street, weaving between startled pedestrians. A car screeched to a halt as she cut across traffic, horns blaring in protest. Emily, it's over. Harris's voice boomed, but she didn't slow. She was running on pure adrenaline, the kind that made her seem untouchable. Up ahead, I saw her angle toward the delivery truck, the same one she'd thrown the bag into earlier. It was idling at a red light. My stomach dropped. She's going for the bag, I shouted. Harris cursed under his breath and pushed harder, but Emily was fast. She reached the truck, yanking open the passenger door, startling the driver. In one desperate move, Harris launched himself forward, tackling her into the side of the vehicle. The driver leapt out, shouting, as the officers closed in. Emily thrashed wildly, kicking and screaming. He's the one you want. Daniel's behind all of it. Her voice cracked, desperation bleeding through. People had stopped on the sidewalk, phones out, recording every second. Save it for your lawyer, Harris growled, snapping cuffs onto her wrists. As the officers pulled her away, I caught her glare, sharp, venomous, but with something else in it. A promise. You think this is the end? She spat. You don't know who you're dealing with. The officers loaded her into the squad car, but my relief was short-lived. The truck driver stepped forward, holding the gym bag. This yours? She was trying to convince me it was her stuff. Harris took it, opening it just enough for me to see the stacks of cash, and something else that made my blood run cold. It wasn't just money in there. It was passports, and one of them had my picture. The sight of my own face staring back at me from a passport I'd never seen before sent a wave of nausea through me. The name printed beneath my photo wasn't mine, though, Daniel Westbrook. The birth date was wrong, too. But the picture? Taken last summer, at a barbecue with friends. Harris's brow furrowed as he flipped through the rest of the passports. She wasn't just stealing from you. She was building an identity package. Probably to open accounts, rack up debt, maybe even move money offshore. My voice came out hoarse. Using my face? Your face, he confirmed, and a fake name that wouldn't ping on your credit until it was too late. Mara stepped closer, peering at the documents. This is next level. She's not just a scam artist, she's a ghost builder. Creates people out of thin air to move money, then burns the identity when it gets too hot. I stared at the stack of passports, each with a different man's face. Some had Emily's last name, some didn't. All of them were tied to her. That's why she kept me close, I said quietly. Not for the money, for the camouflage. Harris zipped the bag shut. We'll run everything through the fraud unit. But Daniel, this means she had someone on the inside. You can't get documents this clean without help. A chill settled in my gut. So even if she's locked up, someone else could pick up where she left off, Mara finished. Harris's radio crackled. Transport en route to holding. He glanced at me. You need to be at the precinct. We'll take your statement, secure the evidence, and get this in front of a judge before she makes bail. As we headed toward the waiting squad car, I looked over my shoulder. Emily was inside another cruiser, her face half hidden by the glare on the glass. But her eyes found mine, locking on like a predator memorizing its prey. Her lips moved, slow and deliberate. This isn't over. I felt the weight of the recorder in my pocket and the passports in Harris's hand. For the first time all night, I knew she was right. At the precinct, the hours blurred, statements, evidence logs, signing my name on form after form. By the time Harris finally led me down the hallway toward the holding cells, my head was pounding. She's insisting on seeing you, he said. Your call. Could be a stunt, could be closure. I hesitated, every instinct screaming to walk away. But the truth was, I needed to look her in the eye one last time. Not for her, but for me. The cell door clanged open, and there she was, sitting on a bench like she owned the place. No cuffs now, just that same unnerving composure. "Daniel," she purred, as if we were meeting for coffee. "You've been busy." I kept my voice steady. "It's over, Emily. They have the bag, the passports, your confession. You're not walking away from this one." She smiled faintly, leaning forward. "You think jail scares me? I've been planning my out since the first time I got caught. People out there owe me favors, powerful people. You might see me walk sooner than you think." I took a step closer, pulling the recorder from my pocket. It's going to every victim you've ever conned. Every lawyer, every reporter. Even if you get out, you won't have anywhere to run." Her smile faltered, just for a second. "Careful, Daniel. You play too rough, you might get hurt." I met her gaze, feeling the weight of everything she'd put me through. Every lie, every dollar stolen, every moment I doubted my own sanity. "The difference between us, Emily, is I don't need to hide anymore." Harris tapped my shoulder, signaling time was up. I turned to leave, but her voice followed me, low and venomous. "You'll look over your shoulder for the rest of your life. And one day, it'll be me standing there." I didn't stop walking. The heavy door clanged shut behind me, sealing her inside, for now. Outside, the night air hit my face like a cleansing shock. Mara was waiting, hands in her jacket pockets, eyes searching mine. "Done?" she asked. I nodded. "Done, but I'll never forget." And as we walked toward the street, I knew I wasn't just leaving the station. I was leaving behind the man who had once believed her.